Sex is too powerful to stay in the realm of superstition. Sex is too beautiful to be made ugly by ignorance, greed, or lack of self-control. We need to learn sex education in the first grade, the second, the third. We need to learn about our sex organs just as soon as we learn about our other organs. Reverend Jesse Jackson. Today I'm going to persuade you that Idaho needs to adopt an updated and comprehensive sex education program. For those of you who disagree, I will provide you with a better understanding on why many people believe that Idaho's sex education program needs updated. For those of you who agree, this information will help you better communicate why Idaho schools should have a comprehensive sex education program. I have done extensive research on this topic and have interviewed an Idaho sex education teacher. Also, all of my schooling was done here in Idaho, so I have personally gone through the sex education program. Today I will tell you about how the current program is outdated, how the current program lacks to cover fundamental topics, and the problem of abstinence-only programs. Let us begin by looking at how the current sex education program is outdated. The current sex education program in Idaho is outdated because it's based on a theory from the late 1970s and early 1980s called the conspiracy of silence. According to Janet Bode's Kids Having Kids, the Unwed Teen Parent, this conspiracy of silence is the idea that if they don't mention it, you won't figure it out. In Idaho, teaching other methods is like giving permission to have sex. As according to Mr. Linker, the sex education teacher that I interviewed. The current program is also outdated because it's not meeting the needs of our present-day students. Students today are sexually active or are curious about sex. While 83% of these students found the school information to be useful, they still sought out information from other sources, such as their friends, TV, movies, and magazines. Their needs are also not being met because the current student has a lack of sufficient knowledge to be sexually active. According to Louisa Allen's Sexual Subjects, Young People, Sexuality, and Education, 60% of surveyed students believed that they did not need sexual knowledge to be sexually active. Of these students, 12% did not know how to put on a condom. 19% did not know how to avoid unwanted sexual activity, and 15% of the surveyed students did not know what an STD was or how they spread, which is vital information because according to the CDC, 27% of the sexually active population is from age 15 to 24. And that population group accounts for 50% of the 20 million new cases of STIs each year. Now that you know why the current sex education program is outdated, I will tell you about how it lacks to cover fundamental topics. The current sex education program in Idaho lacks to cover fundamental topics because it only covers abstinence and what STDs are. According to Mr. Linker, he is able to teach his students what an STD is, but not how they get it. The Idaho sex education program needs to cover all the fundamental topics related to an individual's sexual well-being, which should include the different forms of birth control and their effectiveness, such as condoms, oral contraceptives, patches, and shots, and the morning after pill. It should also include information about the awareness and prevention of sexual abuse and violence. According to www.rain.org, last accessed on July 16, 2014, there are about 240,000 rapes or sexual assaults per year for people ages 12 and older. Of these cases, 44% are under the age of 18, and 80% were under the age of 30. Our sex education program should also cover where to go if you become a victim of sexual violence and self-protection techniques to prevent a sexual assault. Now that you know what some of the fundamental topics are that are being left out of our youth sexual education, I will tell you about the problems of abstinence-only programs. Plain and simple, abstinence-only programs don't work because students have sex anyways. In Idaho, 38.5% of Idaho's high school students are sexually active, as according to the nationalcampaign.org, last accessed on July 16, 2014. That ranked them 13 in the Idaho teen pregnancy rate. According to Marilyn Anderson of the Planned Parenthood in Florida stated that the whole idea is to scare kids and make them think that they'll get HIV by having sex. But what is walking into our clinic says that kids are having sex just without condoms, which leads to the next problem of an abstinence-only program, unplanned teen pregnancy. In Idaho, 40% of pregnancies of women ages 15 to 44 are unplanned, according to the nationalcampaign.org. A study from Columbia studies stated that no sex-pledging teens had sex at the same rate as their non-pledging counterparts, but these teens were less likely to use contraceptives, as according to the article, Abstinence-Only Sex Education. This article also states that abstinence-only programs are filled with lies and misleading information, and cites a national study that found 80% of abstinence-only curricula have these kinds of information in them. An example of a false facts provided was 5 to 10% of abortions leads to being sterile. In fact, there is no connection found. Also, a false fact that was given was 31% of condom use does not prevent HIV transmission. In real life, it's closer to a 0% transmission rate. Today, I have persuaded you that Idaho needs to adopt an updated and comprehensive sex education program by looking at how the current program is outdated, how the current program lacks to cover fundamental topics, and the problems that abstinence-only programs leads to. Sex is too powerful to stay in the realm of superstition. Sex is too beautiful to be made ugly by ignorance, greed, or lack of self-control. We need to learn sex education in the first grade, the second, the third. We need to learn about our sex organs just as soon as we learn about our other organs. Reverend Jesse Jackson. Please help protect the welfare of our kids and contact your local representative and let them know you want Idaho schools to have a comprehensive sex education program. I have provided a link below and papers in the room on how to contact your local representative. In a red state or blue, our kids should know what to do.